The following is a paid program. The content is provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership are not responsible for the content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. And now, the host of the Team Martek Hour, Joe Martek.
Beatles song. Remember that Beatles song, Here Comes the Sun?
Yeah.
And then, who sang that one real fast?
The Beatles.
No.
You remember that Beatles song?
Real skinny guy, and he'd get up there. Man, he would sweat like crazy. And
Richie.
You're getting close. You're getting close.
Richie Havens.
Richie Havens, yeah. And boy,
but he did that at Woodstock.
But he
and
did.
And you're dating me. You're dating me now.
Hey, and let me tell you, I saw him live, and this guy was probably 140. And he was still doing it just that fast.
That's like Willie Nelson. His braid now, it like practically touches the floor.
No.
His guitar's got a big hole in it. He's still playing it.
That's because he's been hitting it with the pick for so many years.
Yeah.
My heroes are people that died 20 years ago, and that's the Rolling Stones.
They just don't know
they
they
die?
They don't know they died.
They just don't know they died.
They're awesome. I'm
telling you, I can't believe they're still.
Now,
but
every
they
time they
are
come around,
awesome.
I go.
340-1590, 340-1590. This is not what we're here to talk about.
But it could
on
be.
Occasion,
It could be.
It is
we get
now.
sidetracked. This is the Dan and Joe Show, also called the Team Martek Hour. But normally it's Dan and Joe. And then Alan Love, I think he's down raising money today at CNO all day. So
well, that's an honorable thing to be doing.
It is
today.
an honorable thing. I'm going to show up around 4:30 and help them raise some money.
You know, I've been out of town on a cruise, and so I'm running away from the office today, but I'll have to go back, so I can't go to the other show.
Poor baby, I feel so bad for you.
So things kind of waited for you to get back?
They piled up.
Oh,
but
darn.
that's okay. I was told I had meetings to go to, and I had escaped already, so it was too late.
Well, you know what happens is when you don't control your calendar, somebody else does. Here's what you will do.
I just didn't look at it. It was my fault, so I apologize. I should have looked, but I was in a hurry to get out, and I didn't look.
340-1590, 340-1590. This is a talk show. It is the Dan and Joe Show, also called the Team Martek Hour, which started back in '04. Darren Warren, independent insurance agent. Greg Fasula, attorney, who, by the way, was here last week. Joe Martek, financial advisor. I didn't pick on him much because you weren't here.
Well, it's okay.
I know.
There's just so much to pick on.
But so we talked a little bit of politics, but not a whole bunch.
We can change
Well,
that.
it was a little slow last week.
Yeah.
This week is a little bit different.
There's a lot of things happening.
This week's pretty much more exciting.
Ryan's going to not seek re-election.
Yeah, and is anyone sad about that?
I don't know. I mean, I think if he would have really hammered a little bit harder, he could have got that one vote.
Here's the thing.
To get Obamacare repealed.
Was a Tea Party. He was a Tea Party candidate. He got elected. And then he worked with Barack Obama too long, and now that Barack Obama's gone, he forgets he's a Republican.
Yeah. You think that it rubbed off on him a little?
I think he forgot.
First of all, I want you to know our moderator
where he came from.
is our moderator. If you couldn't tell, is a flaming liberal.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, I have tendencies. Like I'm a tree hugger and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's about the only thing, and it's one tree.
I'm a bunny hugger.
Well, I think we're all environmentalists to a degree.
Yeah. Yes.
None of us want dirty water. None of us want dirty air. But we do have to understand
But now,
that
if you
humans
were,
have to exist.
If you were to ask a Democrat about that, how do Republicans feel about dirty air? They would say they're for it.
Yeah.
Of course. They think we are.
No one in their right mind wants to pollute where they live.
Exactly.
Nobody. The key thing that happens, we look at Florida, third most populated state in America, and yes, we have pollution problems, and the only way to cure the problems is eliminate all the people. So we got to, we just have to wipe out everybody that lives south of the Martin County line.
See, now you sound like a Republican. Yeah. Wipe out all the people.
Right. Well, and I get it. How many times Dan, you've lived here your whole life. I've been in Florida since 1976. As long as we've been alive, we have heard about the problems with Lake Okeechobee. Mm-hmm. And we will be dead and gone.
See, but those problems keep someone employed.
Well, they're keeping a lot of people employed.
And this is the truth. I had a good friend of mine, and his brother's entire career, from the time he stopped in high school till the time he retired, was working around the berm, putting dirt on it.
Yeah.
That's all he did his whole life.
Put dirt on the berm.
To keep it.
New rocks, new dirt.
New rocks, new dirt. That's
Yeah.
all he did his
Yeah.
whole career. So
Yeah.
you're right. It does give people employment,
Well-
but that's not the intent. All right. The lake is a natural resource that is one of a kind. It's one of a kind, and it should definitely be preserved.
Yeah.
The problem is there's too many people that have too many answers as to how to best preserve
Right.
it.
But see, what happens with those people, though, is they work their whole career, they retire, and someone else has a new idea, and then they start doing it that person's way, and you start all over again.
Well, water should be kept clean. Fish shouldn't die in it. Other than that, I sort of back off. All right, I want clean water. I don't want the fish to die. Other than that, I'm open to proposals.
Well, they messed with it in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
Either put it back the way it was,
Well, here
or
comes.
just deal with the fact that you messed with it in the first place.
Well, when they after the 28 or 32 hurricane and it killed everybody south of the lake, that's when
But
they
you
decided they
can't-
needed to build that berm.
You can't stop Mother Nature.
Well, they keep
You
trying.
know, now it's going to come in from a different direction and do something different.
Well, man is very arrogant. They think they have the ability to control natural events like that. It's just like time, all right? And I'm not trying to get to a different subject, but only man is arrogant enough to think, voila, today the time will be different. We're going to go to daylight savings time or standard
Yeah.
time. Only man is that arrogant. So things should be left alone.
Yeah.
I will tell you, and listen, I listen to all the things, and I've talked to two guys that work for South Florida Water Management District, and they're pretty high up. And it's kind of a joke with them, all the stuff that is being proposed to do that is going to help the problem. We have only one little minor problem, just eliminate all the people in Florida, and the water will get really good again. And by the way, you can't leave the cows in it either. All the cows on the Okeechobee or the Kissimmee River Basin have to be eliminated also. So
they've eliminated an awful lot of the dairy and an awful lot of the cows that were creating that flatulence problem and
Right.
all those different things that were causing pollution. They put tens of thousands of cows out of production, turning them into beef cows.
It wasn't the flatulence problem.
Well, I was being kind.
Well, but that's part of the ozone layer
Yes,
issue, right?
It was
Cows.
another source of pollution.
Another source. It was the droppings and the urine
Yes,
that was
the cow
causing
patties.
Cow patties, and that wasn't a problem either until it rained.
Till it rained, and then the mushrooms sprang
Then
up.
the mushrooms sprang up, and then that caused another whole problem.
That's right. That's right.
Wait a minute, Alan Love, do you remember cow patty mushrooms when you were a kid?
Yes, I do.
We thought you did.
Wisconsin's famous for them, besides cheese and beer.
Must have cows to make cheese.
340-50.
Thanks, Veronica.
Unless you're
How they
using goat
forget.
cheese. 340-1590. Back in 2004, Dan Warren, independent insurance agent, Joe Martek, financial advisor, Greg Fasula, attorney, started doing his radio shows in order to answer questions for people that each individual didn't know the answers to. And then, because of necessity, we added Ms. Victoria Lloyd back when the Great Recession hit, because the biggest subject going was real estate and the debacle of real estate and the demise of real estate and the collapse of real estate and why that happened. And then new word came in that we had never heard of before, which was short sale, which no such thing. When I was in real estate from 76 to 90, I'd never heard of that word. And Vic, you hadn't either, had you?
No, had not.
But
No.
boy, all of a sudden it became a monster subject. And it became a very interesting concept, because I know, and so do you, know people that actually lived in houses for up to 4 years, longest I've known, never made a payment, and then short sailed that house and got out from underneath the debt because that lender allowed them to, quote, short sale.
But the lender really should have worked with the original owner, I think.
And that's what I was just
What
gonna
a
say.
concept, you know? You got people in there already.
Well, see, now you're doing...
And they wanted to.
But
They
here,
wanted to, but
Here
the
comes,
banks wouldn't
here
do that.
comes
No, the bank, yeah.
idealism. Now, I thought you didn't have an idealistic bone in your body. What should have happened is, listen, how many times have I said this? Probably 1,000. If it works, change it.
You should work for the government, Joe.
If
Yeah,
it
that's what
works,
yeah.
change it. It's like going into a grocery store. Everything you know exactly where it is, and the next time you go in, they changed all the shelves around. Well, that's good. That makes me mad at the grocery store.
Well,
It's
that's
like,
strategic
It's to
marketing.
make you
They're-
hunt.
Yeah, so you'll
Yeah.
buy more.
Yeah,
That's it.
because now you'll go down other aisles and you might pick up other things.
I just got to get a kick out of it. If
You
it
got a
works,
chick out
you
of
got
it.
a
No
chick
wonder
out
it
of
goes up and down the
Yeah,
aisles.
boy. If it works, change it. So then, because of Mick Victoria Lloyd, then answering questions for real estate, we had to bring in Mr. Mike Paulus, mortgage broker, because that was another monster subject. And the media, here we go with the media. You people on
No.
Not those
I'm not a
people.
journalist.
No.
the
I don't
media
report
kept
the
saying
news.
there was no money, mortgage money available, which was never true. There were programs that were instituted many years ago that were fine all the way through the recession, including the USDA program, which was a no money down program if you qualified.
And I'd never heard of that before.
And none of us had heard of it. And the key was it went back to the old rules, which was you had to prove you could make the payment. Because during the height of the recession, you didn't have to prove you could make the payment. You could sign a piece of paper that said you intended to, but you didn't have to prove it. Now, you have to actually prove you've got the income or the ability to make the payment.
Yeah, we were just talking about that yesterday, Mike and I.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's interesting, the changes.
But
But they tried to blame the mortgage broker and said that they're the ones that did it.
was
They
never the
wasn't
mortgage broker's fault.
Of course not. That was a ridiculous thing.
Listen, the reality is this. People in my industry, quote, securities industry, started packaging mortgages as safe instruments and sold them all over the world, and then the demand got higher than the supply, so they went back to the mortgage companies and said, hey, we need more mortgages, so lenders started making it easier to qualify. And if you're a broker, no different than Dan with car insurance or Joe Martek, financial advisor, or Victoria Lloyd, Remax of Stewart, we are brokers. We are hired by a client to either buy or sell.
But see, those banks never thought that the glut for property was going to end.
But don't you think that the federal
Because
government
foreclosure-
influenced it greatly by wanting everyone to be in a home? You know,
But they didn't bother to find out if everyone could pay for it.
that wasn't the
Little minor side
intent
effect.
was to
But
get
that
you
was
But
in
see,
the house.
but the lender didn't care because if you didn't make your payment, they were going to foreclose on a house where the price was going up.
Well, that wasn't
Not that the bottom fell out and
See, that
they
was
got
not
caught holding
necessarily.
the bag.
The amazing thing was most of the mortgages were then sold to the government, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
and they encouraged that.
They encouraged the lending because they had these people packaging these mortgages and selling them all over the world. Back in 1976, here we go. This is a few years ago. I worked for an
You don't really remember that far back.
barely. I worked for a little
I
company
graduated grade school that year.
called Chase
So
Man-
you'll remember this from
Grade school.
called Chase Manhattan Bank, and we were doing workouts for banks. This is when the banks used to own the state of Florida. This was a 74, 75 recession, and Dan, you can remember
I
gas
remember.
lines.
Oh, yes.
That then it caused a major recession, and back then the lenders would build a whole 300-400 unit property and not sell one. They would just lend the whole thing. So I remember talking to a banker back in 1976 from a major Chicago bank, and we're standing in front of a building on the Gulf of Mexico, a high-rise, and boy, I said, boy, it'll never happen again that you guys make all these bad loans. And his quote was, don't count on it. All the guys that made the bad loans have either been fired or promoted. I love that part, one of the two. And he said, when money gets loose again, it will happen again. And it has happened a few times since 1976 where that roller coaster up
Yeah, but
and
you
down.
see those knowledgeable people, they retire and new people come along and they're going to try it.
Well, the guy that was the banker, let me tell you, he could care less what the rules were. He was getting a paycheck to do what he had to do in the banking industry. It's no different if a automobile insurance company, an A+ rated company comes along and says, we will take every underage driver there is and we'll give you the best rate in the whole world.
Well, there is a difference, Joe, and here's what it is. And companies do buy market share.
Of course they do.
All right, so they can come in and say, we're going to buy market share, and we're going to price it so low and competitively price it that everyone will come.
Right.
What they're hoping is that by the time the claims start coming in, they have raised rates enough to
Sustain that.
sustain that
Yeah.
those claims.
Or the company looks so
but
good.
a lender, unless you have a mortgage that can vary, where the interest rate varies, that lender is stuck with those terms.
Yeah, or the company looks really good and someone else buys it.
Well, that does happen sometimes.
You're not kidding. 340-1590, 340-1590. And then anyway, then we added a special guest member who is not a member, but he's a regular guest, and that's Alan Love, retired attorney from the great state of Wisconsin, actually retired prosecuting attorney. And Alan's been a lot of fun because I get to pick on him and for being an attorney. It's not his fault he became one of those. I guess it is kind of because you had to go to school to do that.
I did indeed, and I'll tell you, I'm bothered today as an attorney. The raid by the FBI on President Trump's attorney Michael Cohen. The real problem there is, of course, we don't know what evidence is going to come out or anything, but that was an attack on the attorney-client privilege.
Of course.
And any attorney will tell you that probably the number one thing to solidify your ethics and your integrity is the reputation of upholding the attorney-client privilege.
Right.
And by seizing all of the records,
right,
they have probably privileged information that never would have come out. And the attorney-client privilege goes way back in history. It started back in the common
But they're not playing fair, are they?
No.
Well, the problem is,
or legally.
and this is just my opinion.
So why do they get away with it?
Yeah. Well, see,
because they are the FBI.
Yeah, Trump has been mostly defensive. They would have never tried this tactic if he was hammering his opponents with the exact same thing first. What he's done, he just responds to the beating he's taking instead of giving the beating. And in all honesty,
the big
I thought
question,
he was going to come in with a bigger stick.
What does this have to do with Russia?
All it has to do with is with
I mean,
politics.
They
that's all.
haven't found a single thing related to Russia.
And they're not going to.
Because it's not there.
But it doesn't matter. I can find. They will find something else.
But they're digging until they find something else, and they're going to dig.
Well, now
they're going to
looking
look
for
at
that
everyone.
$130,000 as an illegal campaign contribution.
But it wasn't a campaign. It was done 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But they're trying to label it as an illegal campaign contribution.
Yeah. Well, they're throwing everything they can at the wall to see what they can make stick.
Didn't the FBI need to get a search warrant from a judge?
Yeah,
and they got one.
A judge
well,
did
that would have been
it.
easy.
A judge did it. Obviously, I don't know why. Nobody knows why yet. We don't know the evidence. But getting back to the attorney-client privilege, that started back in the English common law days, back in the 17th century.
From the Magna Carta.
That's how old it is.
Yep.
And I don't care what law school you got your law degree. One of the first things that you're ingrained is the sanctity of the attorney-client privilege. Now, why is that so important? The reason why, basically, is when you are charged with a crime, the burden of proof is on the prosecution to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you committed the crime. But you may say things to your attorney that may or may not be helpful to your case, and if the attorney has no ability to share confidential information with you to do his job, which is to give you the best defense he possibly can, then we don't really have a legal system. Now, there are exceptions to the attorney-client privilege. The number one that I can think of is criminal fraud, where you are trying to use the system to cover up your criminal activity. But there are very few exceptions to an attorney having to divulge information. And this wasn't divulging information. This was breaking down the door of somebody's office, going in there and
in a communist
taking
country,
everything.
kind of the same as in a communist country?
Well, worse than that is, too, it wasn't just the information on Trump. They took all of his files, which is everybody. Yeah. There might have been 200 cases working or clients or more that confidential information is now exposed. I mean, it's an interesting concept. We'll see how it works. In the meantime, we got to.
Hang on, not yet.
We've almost. We got to.
Where is he? 1, 2, 2.
We got line 2, but we don't have. I don't have any volume on this one. We don't. Do I think I'm?
Can
yes,
you hear yourself talking?
now I can hear myself. Hey, Bulldog, it's Joe. You're on the radio, my man. Bulldog, you there?
Hang on.
Bulldog, are you there?
Yeah, he's here.
Come on, Bulldog. Now you're here.
Oh, yeah, made it. I just sat down at LAX, right. Anyway, you know what the deal is here is now you got a bipartisan to protect Mueller, but the thing is this is going to happen until November, and what the hope is Democrats take over House, Senate, and they will vote to impeach him, and that's where we're headed. So Mueller's investigation will not stop, and it's what you said. Throw the spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're just throwing stuff out there just to back their impeachment.
Bulldog, while you're here, Alan, love, you're listening to this thing. What is the time frame? I mean, they're doing this thing. They got all the records. There's no limit on time before they have to expose anything.
No time frame.
Yeah, they could take 6 years and play with those records if they wanted to.
Well, and I'll ask a question of Alan then. Alan, I'm sure, well, no, you've been a prosecuting. I would say, put you in the defense attorney's shoes and say, how many of them know that their client's guilty because he actually told them, and they will not be able to release that because of attorney-client privilege. So therefore, this happens all the time, but for them, the FBI does not, I don't believe, exceed that privilege.
No, absolutely not. The FBI really, and I think we have to wait for things to come out. But at least initially, it looks like the FBI over-exceeded what is normal. Now, there may be things behind the scenes that they did this to the extent that they did it, but I'm not going to speculate or criticize anybody at this point. One of the things that I learned as an attorney, and I'm sure Greg Fasula would back me up on this, is wait until the evidence comes out and then see what the evidence is before you make any judgments.
Okay, all right. Well, then let's go based on that premise. Then I suspect that they had a search and seizure warrant. I have not heard of that.
Yeah, I have no problem with what happened. A judge had to issue a warrant giving the FBI the authority to do what they did. So the FBI had evidence that convinced the judge that they had to go so far as to break into the office and to seize everything that they wanted to seize. Now, either the FBI has way overstepped its bounds and they went in there looking for something, because maybe so far Mueller has not uncovered anything that would be damaging if you're looking to impeach Trump. On the other hand, the FBI might have overwhelming evidence, not necessarily related to Trump, but to others, that warranted an immediate seizure of most of Michael Cohen's records. It's highly, highly unusual, but it has happened in the past, and it has happened legally. So let's wait and see what develops.
Yeah, but isn't that just like the FISA court that handed out all those rulings for them to do the investigation and found out that it was all bogus? So, don't think that judges don't get involved politically, because there's ample evidence to prove the contrary. They do.
It may very well be bogus. As I said, let's see. It might be that the FBI went way over the top.
But a let's see attitude poisons the well.
The other side of the coin.
It poisons the atmosphere for people. So as these elections come up,
There you go.
they are tainting every way they can except through truth, and that's what bothers me.
Dan, we have to
excuse
separate.
Me, can I ask a question? Here?
One second. I just wanted to say one thing to Dan. We have to separate the politics from the legal system.
Good luck, brother.
But we're beyond that now, though.
When did that happen?
That's
Right, and I was
that's
just
a problem
gonna
in our
ask.
country.
No kidding. Yeah, so
I said, who is this judge and
it'd be
what
interesting.
political party is he?
Who appointed him?
Yeah, the other side of the coin. Judges are supposed to be non-political, quote. So
Huh.
I know. I said quote. you
Try
know.
the Supreme Court,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. All right, my man. Everything else is good up north.
Yep.
Did you get snow?
And,
Did you get snow last night?
No, man, I'll tell you what, it rained
Well,
all day.
we
got a ton of rain.
we all needed the rain, didn't we?
Well, it's good, you know. I mean, it does what it needs to do and everything, and so, you know, April showers, May flowers.
All right, my man. Listen,
All right.
tell Mary Beth she has my sympathy, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, Bulldog.
Yeah, and anybody you're dating is fun. Right, so. All right. later on, man.
340-1590, 340-1590. You know, it's our whole life. There's always been something going on politically. You know, and I've talked to some other people. I said,
I think this is a new low
Well, I wonder.
politically.
I wonder.
But don't you think
No,
people
we're
felt
looking
that
a
about
whole
the-
lot more like
about the
countries that aren't
Clinton-
as civilized
don't you
as
think the
America used to
Clinton
be?
Backers felt the same thing when Starr was after him. You know, we all basically knew that we were electing someone that had a shady past. And
See,
when,
but I don't. When he was just Donald Trump, you never ever heard him referred to as Playboy billionaire Donald Trump. He never was. It never hit the headline like
But
that.
one of the-
And yet
it
he's
doesn't
been in the
surprise-
headlines.
It doesn't surprise me.
Well, it's one of the reasons Dan and I don't run for office.
That's right. We're not.
I mean, I want
we're
them
not
to accuse me
Playboy.
about being a playboy. At my
So-
age, this would be a rush.
But here's the thing: we didn't care when Bill Clinton did it. He
No.
still could do his job. Who cares if
Well,
he's
a lot
got a
of
bunch of
people
girlfriends?
did care, and a lot of people
We
cared.
cared that he lied, not that he had girlfriends.
Well,
we could care less
Well,
that he had girlfriends.
Listen, what has happened to
And
every
again, this-
single president is because not what they did, is that they lied about it. So
Right.
you can get impeached for lying. You don't
Right.
get impeached for fooling around with a neighbor girl. You know, I mean, that's just the thing that happened.
or the intern.
Or the intern.
They're all neighbor girls is what I'm trying to give the analogy. All I'm trying to say is it goes back to president after president, to powerful man after powerful man. In Europe, they could care less. They don't even pay attention to it. They expect powerful men to do stupid
Well,
stuff like that. But
No
here,
one cares.
Here, the key is, am I lying?
Well, he's never said he is lying. No one's ever said he's lying.
I like this angle. Now, what if we find out that the attorney and Stormy
We're fooling around.
were
We're
fooling
fooling
around,
around.
and the hush money was to save his family?
Well, you know, guess what?
Was that a client attorney privilege?
He may have been representing himself.
Well, I think it's what called friends share with friends. 340-15. Cliff, what are you laughing about? 340-1590, 340-1590. All right, we're done with politics for a few minutes. Can we talk a little business?
Absolutely.
What's new in the insurance business?
You know, actually, I told everybody a couple of months ago that we had a really good new product for manufactured housing.
Right,
But they had to be newer.
right.
What's newer?
Well, let's say 95 and newer.
Okay.
But since then, we've got another contract with another carrier that does older ones.
How much older?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
They have
They
to
don't
be.
discriminate
Nope, they
against
got
age.
They got to be in good shape. They got to be tied down. You know, they can't.
How
be
about
like,
location?
as long as they're not on the ocean, they're okay.
Yeah, there's not many of them left,
Well,
actually.
Nettles
You've got a
Island
bunch of
has-
Nettles
Yeah.
Island and venture out and stuff, but I've got a market for that. But it's not really competitive.
Well, but look at every one of the Spanish lakes. They're not on the ocean, and they got a lot of older units.
We're doing a magnificent job over there, and the reason I say that is you've had some agencies leave the area who were really specializing in manufactured homes, and a lot of those clients are sort of like left out in the cold without having a local person. So if you find yourself in that position, give us a call. You might be surprised as to what we can do to help you. But other than that, what I'm also seeing is a upswing pricing, as we probably knew we were going to see from the hurricane damages. They're slowly recouping. So
They're slowly paying claims too.
yes, they are slowly
Yeah.
paying. I mean, we're
Yeah.
probably 95% of our claims are paid. That 5% that's hanging in there, there's issues back and forth, and they'll probably end up in mediation somewhere down the line. But yeah, you're going to see the carriers start to tick up, and you may be one that gets hit early. If that's the case, give us a call. But I would be willing to say in the next 3 to 5 years, everyone was going to take that jump up.
Speaking of real estate, Ms. Victoria Lloyd,
Yes.
so we all understand the market's hot right now, right?
Yes, it is.
I mean, availability is tough. Is that fair?
No. Yes and no.
Yes and no.
She's giving you one-word answers.
Giving you the
Well,
great
it's a yes
facility.
and no
Yes and no.
because people say there's nothing available, but there is things that are available.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't fit your needs, and the other thing is when we have change, people want the old way, not the new way.
They want that $60,000 house that's now $150,000.
Right. And when I had the 60,000, when the houses were at the boom and they went over outrageously high, everybody said if it only went back to those prices, they'd buy the world out. They wouldn't stop. But as soon as it dropped, they didn't. Then they thought about it again. It's like us going shopping. You might see that shirt for $100 and it's on sale for $20, but then you look at it 15 times, turn around, make sure you would have bought it at $100. But now you're thinking about it at 20. So the world is right now that we have products that are out there, but then people are being a little more picky, let's say.
Now,
They
interest
want
rates
it
are
just
still
what
good,
they
though,
want.
right?
Interest rates are fabulous.
I mean, it's
4.5. They're fabulous.
they're still in the fours.
Yeah, they're single.
Because I've seen T-bills are hovering at this 2.85, which normally they expected them to be over 3, which would then correlate to a higher interest rate for
Right.
mortgages. So,
And it will eventually.
well, of course it will. But in the meantime, the economy keeps getting better. Unemployment is hovering at an all-time low. Companies are making money hand over fist. This is what's interesting with the market, with Trump and his. The market is so crazy right now because of Trump's tweets and are we going to blow Syria off the map? What are we going to do tomorrow? And it's the market's up, the market's down. But the reality is this. The market normally is based on companies making profits or not making profits. When we go into a recession, companies are losing money and the values go down. Today, most companies are in a wonderful position. Wonderful position. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
I'm looking at the attorney down there because we all know attorneys know everything.
No answer.
Oh, boy.
They know what they know.
But real estate, so you know, I've heard this too, that the bottom end of the market, stuff that's under 100,000, is pretty hard to find anymore. Is that fair?
It is harder. Yeah,
Yeah.
much harder.
Yeah.
You know, where we
And what
had,
kind of quality are you finding with those kind of prices? Probably rehabs. Remodel, yeah.
Well, you get
But you
get
should
some of the,
expect that.
well, you
at
don't
100.
find a lot of. You find a lot of not even that many in the mobile home or modular homes anymore. Do you even find them under 100,000 now?
well, some of the old cracker houses, I call them that, but they're not really. The old 2-bedroom, 1-bath carport houses.
They've been here
Or
a long time.
165 now,
They've been here a long time.
165,000.
Yeah. I mean,
Do you
it's
find that a lot of the people that bought on speculation are now rolling that out, or what you seen coming online is more people who live in the home?
Live in the home.
All right, so the
Yeah.
speculators are still holding on for a little while
Yeah,
longer.
because they've been renting them out,
Okay.
and rents are up.
and rents are up.
Yeah, so that's that.
And I don't know how people are affording them. I mean, there are families out there. By the time they pay their rent and their gas and feed their children, it's very difficult.
Well, you know, this is why everybody has a husband and wife both working. Back when we were raised, moms didn't work; they took care of the kids. Now everybody to get by.
But not everybody
Oh,
has
let
a
me
husband
say it.
and a
Let me go
wife.
ahead and
Some
say
are
it. Thank you,
single
Gloria
Yeah,
Steinem.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
it's-
I'm not finding as many of the younger people being married anymore.
Yeah.
They're having
Just
babies and they're
cohabitating.
together,
Yeah.
but they're not really getting married.
Well, they looked at our generation and said how crappy a job we did staying married. And
Speak
they-
for yourself.
Oh, you know what?
Just
They-
because you had 20 marriages.
But wait a second. What you're missing here, though, is non-married, has a baby, can collect assistance.
Yeah, that's
the
true,
way
too.
it works.
Right, and I've heard they cut that off. Like you used to be able to have babies after babies. Now they limit how many you can have.
Now, the news this morning is they're cutting a lot of welfare off.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. Actually,
Well-
no, they're not really cutting anything.
But they're limiting
They're
it.
they're reverting to the actual laws that are on the books again.
Yeah.
Where there's a limit.
But that's going to create public outcry, which is going to. The timing is designed for voter
Midterm
activity
elections.
at midterm. That's what they're pushing for.
Well, I think that everything's affordable out there. They just need to know how to plan for it because, like you're saying, Joe, money is so low.
You
The
take
programs, you don't need a lot
$300,000
of money to
mortgage
get
is-
into
So
it.
you would
$12,000, $13,000 a year in interest. That's $1,000 a month and a $300,000 house, right?
In a beautiful home, that's right, and you
Magnificent.
own it. And the thing of it is you don't even have to spend $300,000.
No, you get a nice
And by the
house.
time you're paying these rents that are out there
Yeah.
that are so much higher, you're so much better. To
So
even
we're at a
think
point
about.
again where it would be better to buy than rent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's suppose I
Absolutely.
did not have the necessary money for a down payment. Do people sometimes structure deals where, okay, I rent from the guy who's selling, he applies part of my rent to the purchase like a lease option, and then in a year I'm in a better position to actually buy the house? Does that work sometimes for you?
Sometimes there are programs like that, that are out there that they can do that, and a lot of time that's towards their down payment.
Right.
Sure.
So,
Yeah,
like
right.
you're saying, they don't have the cash, but yet it is. The other thing that I try to explain to all my people when I take a listing, all my people, when I come to you, because I give you a net sheet when we take the listing. So if you list your house for $150,000, I show you the estimated costs you may incur. Those costs, then I show you what you're going to put in your pocket.
Yeah.
So I say to people, if somebody comes to you and says, listen, I would like some help with my closing cost, and I need $3,000 or $5,000, whatever it may be, they're legal, we can do that, then they can afford to buy this home. They get upset. They go, I'm not paying somebody else's. But what's the difference?
If
I-
you're
that's right, Jeff.
Net dollars in your pocket.
It's money in
But
your
then
pocket.
what happens, though, is the appraiser comes along and appraises you low, and now everybody's lower.
Well, the appraisal has to work.
The appraisal's
Yeah.
got to work no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what.
But that's the surprise. That's usually a real big surprise.
I usually know pretty much ahead of time, and if I really think there could be a problem, I tell people up front.
See, the
There's a
king that happened.
possibility.
If you were early in the curve when prices were changing,
Yeah.
you'd probably have that problem.
Not so
but
much
we've
now.
had such a long time frame where people are buying more and more expensive houses. I think you'll find that those appraisals are coming out where they need to be.
340-1590, 340-1590. We have another brave soul willing to get on the radio and ask a question. Phyllis, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Yes, hi, Joe. We spoke about a month ago about my mom's trust.
Go ahead.
And my question was about putting the house in the trust, and it was a good idea.
Sure.
The question now is we were told it has to be in somebody's name. You can't just put it in a trust because it has to have a person. The trust isn't a person.
Yeah, but
So
here,
they put it.
go ahead.
Well, we put it in my brother's name, but he put his address. And I said, you shouldn't do that because what about homestead exemption? Is that an issue?
Big time. No, the house was mom's.
Yes, and the attorney did tell us over a year ago, it was done in West Palm Beach, that when one of them passed, we'd put the house in the trust. That's the way you should do it.
No.
Which, okay, so my pop passed, and they did that. They just did that. They put the house in the trust. But
Okay.
they put in my brother's name with his address in both. I said, whoa,
That's-
she's going to lose homestead exemption.
No,
Am I right or wrong?
Worse than that. It just got worse. Your mom and your dad owned the house. Dad died. Mom owns the house. Mom paid $50,000 for the house 20 years ago. Now it's worth $200,000. Now, don't you look at my numbers exactly, but just
For an example. Okay, yeah,
for an
I understand.
example. Now, that house is now deeded to your brother. Guess what? Your mom dies. Your brother owns that house in the trust, and the reality is, if you guys sell that house for $200,000, there's a taxable event all the way back to $50,000. But if the house had stayed in your mom's name and put in the trust, there'd been no tax when she dies. You got the wrong attorney. Let me just tell you flat out. And
Nice.
the biggest problem is this: what you just described should never have happened. I'm not an attorney, but if Greg Fasula was sitting here right now, and I have an attorney that doesn't really specialize in trust, but the reality is this.
but I know this, Joe. You're right.
The
Now,
key-
whose tax burden is that? Her brother's?
well, let me just tell you.
Or the estate.
It makes no difference. Mom dies. You guys sell the house. You're gonna whoever gets the money is gonna have to pay tax all the way back to what mom paid for it. That's the cost basis. Now the way it doesn't work is if it's a homestead, and she dies, and the house is now worth $200,000, and you guys sell it for $200,000, there is no tax. So not only did she lose her homestead, but she's no longer the owner of the house. She transferred the title. Mistake, 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 mistake.
But it can be corrected.
Now, you can go back and undo that, title it back into Mom's name like it was a mistake. You need to call Greg Fasula, make an appointment. He won't charge you a nickel, but he will counsel you, and you need to explain this to him, and you need to do it yesterday, because if Mom dies, you guys you're going to lose a ton of money because of a stupid mistake.
Wow.
I know.
Great.
Don't you hate this? I mean, it's pathetic, but somebody gave you guys the wrong information, and I don't have a clue who, but whoever it was should be shot.
Now, who chose whose name it went in, Mom or?
Makes no difference. Whoever did it was a mistake.
We don't know, because it was done. The three of them did it without telling my sister and I, and they're like, well, we told you it was going to be put into the trust. Yeah, but you didn't tell us you were going to do it now, and it was done that way. Why did you do it that way?
Well, Mom.
I know why.
And I wasn't even worried about the tax. I was worried about the homestead exemption.
Well, Mom loses her homestead exemption. That's a fact. But more important than that, all that amounts to is, in a homestead, you get sued, it can't be taken away from you. Number two, the taxes can only go up 3% a year. That's the two major things with the homestead. Okay, so that's gone. Right now, if your brother gets sued, that house is his house. He can lose that house because he's not living in it, and then nobody gets anything, and Mom's on the street.
Even though it's in the trust, and he's just the trustee?
Of course.
He's one of the trustees.
Forget that part.
Yeah?
Forget that part. People
I
look
thought it was protected because it was in the trust.
Oh, Lord.
But now it's his trust, though, isn't it?
But here's what happens. Trusts can be penetrated like crazy, because if the intent was to do this to avoid that, it's a fraud. So, I mean, when it's just a simple thing like what happened, it's a mistake. I don't care how I could go on for a half an hour, but the bottom line is I'm going to give you a phone number. You call Greg, you make an appointment. You go talk to him. He's in Are you in Port St. Lucie?
And bring your sister and brother so they can hear the same thing.
Bring relatives. I mean, this is a big deal. Big deal. Now, there might be something going on behind the scenes that I don't know about that maybe you do, but forget that. You need to make an appointment with Greg. I'm going to give you the phone number right now. You ready?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
337-0062. I hope that's not his.
That's his office number.
That's his office.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bottom line is, you can tell him, but he won't charge you guys to come in. And if you can get the whole family together, that's a smart thing to do. And then you need to bring whatever documentation has been done. And I can only say this one more time: what you did was a mistake. Let's say there was.
What they did was a mistake.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure they knew what they were doing.
Now now we have a very much of a cynic here that's talking, because she has
I'm the bad sister.
She has the evil twin
evil
sister who they basically take advantage of Mom and Dad to their benefit.
Yeah.
And this might be something that happened. I hope for your sake it's not, because that can cause a bigger rift in the family.
Yeah, right. I know. Well, I don't believe it that way. I'm sure you probably said the same thing back then, but I'm 100% sure it wasn't done that way.
Goody.
It was just told that. Yeah, it was just told that it has to have somebody's name on it.
No,
because you can't just put it in the trust.
Mom's name was on it. That's it.
Mom.
Mom.
It's her house.
That's her house, and the trust should be in her name. It should only in her.
And then the trust would say what to do with it, right? At the end,
of course.
You know, I want it sold and distributed or
all
whatever.
All you're doing with the trust is it's like putting things from your right pocket to your left pocket. But as soon as you take it out of both pockets and put it into somebody else's pocket, it's no longer Mom's house.
It sounds like it's her brother's house.
It's her brother's house.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I said. I said, and even if you were going to put your name on it for whatever reason, it has to be assigned to somebody. Why don't you leave it as her address, so it looks like she's still living there?
Makes no difference. I don't care if it looks like it or not. We're talking about the legal ramifications of lawsuit 1, 2, homestead, 3, money. And I'm talking.
Now, the homestead, they told us, they brought the papers up to the city, about it being in a trust. And they did homestead it.
Well, then
so
guess what?
They had to bring papers.
It might.
But then his house
it might still be. It might still be in Mom's name. What you do is take a copy of the trust to see Greg Fasula, and the house could very well still be in Mom's name. Nothing changed there. The house is now put in the trust, but your brother's address might be used as the address for the trust. It has nothing to do with the ownership of the house.
Okay, now if it's her name is on the trust, but they added him to the deed. Does that change anything?
It does. That's not a
The
good
taxes?
thing. That's not.
That's his house.
Tell her to look in the tax records. She'll see how it's deeded.
Of course.
You can do
Okay,
this.
so if it's deeded to him, then the house when it's sold will still be taxable, like he was saying, going back to what she paid for it and what it's worth.
Yep.
It's his house.
Yeah, but who would sell it? If he didn't want to sell it,
It's
his
house. Well, it depends what the trust says too. But here's I'm playing attorney, and I don't want to do this. You need to take that document, the whole trust, and your brother, and your mom. Is mom walking, capable of all that, and talking?
Yeah, but she's got Alzheimer's and she's very paranoid about. She's in that stage. Everything's paranoid. You know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
then let
we're
it
paying
be.
for everything out of our pockets and stuff because, like, when Pop died, his pension died with him.
So how long
You know?
ago was this trust established?
Actually, it was established with both of them at the table with all of us because we thought.
How long
Mom
ago-
was gonna
how long
pass.
is- how long
that
ago?
was about a year ago. I want to say June. A year ago, June.
Was
like less. No, it was before that.
Was
so
your-
it was October. I want to say of 2016.
Was your mom out to lunch then with Alzheimer's?
No.
Okay. So she was able to make a conscious, intelligent decision at that time, correct?
Yes, correct.
And it may not have happened. It may still be in mom's name only. If that attorney did things correctly, you need to go to Greg and find out. He will tell you, and I'm telling you, you just need to do this.
Okay, now for me to get the papers, I don't know if I can get the papers.
Why?
I'm going to have my sister look because they have all the papers down in West Palm Beach.
Well, can't they send them to you or make you a copy of
Or
them?
email them. Or
Or
fax
email
They
them?
might
Yeah, but
not
I'm
if
gonna
her
tell you
name's
what's gonna
not
happen.
included.
If I ask for that, that's going to be, you don't trust us, that kind
Exactly.
of
Well,
nonsense.
now, if they say you don't trust us, that might mean that there's a problem, that there's some deception going on.
Mm-hmm.
You have a legal right to protect your mother. Mom has a legal right to protect herself. Your brothers, they should all be on the same page. And believe me, I've
Well,
seen
where is mom's copy of all of that?
Well, the original copy she has, like when we all met, she has that.
Now, where
I'm
is
sure
she?
She has that in the file.
Where
she's
is
at home. She's in her house. She's in her house. We take care of her in her house.
Well, then go. If she's got the copy, go get it.
Go visit her.
Go look at it.
Okay, we won't have the copy of what was changed as far as whatever just happened. But that's on the tax records of the city. So we
No,
see it there
you want to
no?
know what was changed. You need a copy of what was changed. Do you know the attorney? Did you go to see the attorney?
Yeah, but I don't remember who it was.
Yeah, but now if her name's not on anything, they may not do business with her at all.
The other side of the
Which
coin
is what I found out with
was it
my
the same, Was
situation.
it the same attorney that did the
original
trust?
trust?
That did?
Yeah, everything's the same.
Then
Yeah,
what
they
you
know
do
her
is
names.
make an appointment and go see him and say, hey, look, you got to help me with this.
Or clarify this. For me.
Clarify it, and if you're one of the beneficiaries of the trust, you have a legal right to talk to him.
Yeah, I'm a beneficiary. I'm also a power of attorney.
Then let me just tell you something. You have a right. Go make an appointment with that attorney first. Go see him and have him explain to you that the house is in your mom's name still, and that trust is in your mom's name, and then your brother is a trustee, but he was not deeded the house with any luck, because that would have been a mistake.
Okay.
You just want clarifications for the questions.
Yeah, but
that
it
you
sounds
have.
like that's his trust, though, right?
Not
Okay.
necessarily.
Okay.
Without
No,
seeing
we're
it,
all
we don't
listed
know.
in the trust. Everybody's listed.
No,
all
but I mean the
kids and
name on
grandkids.
what's the name on the trust? It should say your mom's name and your dad's name with a date.
Oh, I see what you're saying. The original trust name.
Yeah, that
Right,
name should have stayed the same or been modified only if your dad died, but it should be hardly no changes at all there.
Oh, okay.
Fine. You need to go to that guy first and have him sit down and explain to you. You tell him what I'm telling you. One,
Right.
Mom needs to be homesteaded. Two, the house needs to stay in mom's name. Three, when mom dies, we don't want to have a tax problem.
Right.
And it's his
And as
job to
far as
make sure
being
it's
like
done.
sued, there's nothing going legally with him that he would have done that to take the, to put it.
Let me just tell you this. When you don't have a homestead, when you have a house that's not a homestead, that's subject to attachment by creditors, period. Like if I have a rental property, I don't live in it, that's not a homestead, I get sued,
Yeah, suppose you get in a car wreck, Joe, and got sued.
Same
it
thing.
can be attached.
that can be taken away. So I have had clients, one that died that literally lost his house 6 years before he died because he put the kids on the house.
Yeah, wasn't his daughter in another state
Yeah.
even?
You remember when Semper Fi used to call us all
Yep.
the time?
Walt.
Walt, yeah, what a sad case.
Yeah.
Greatest, sweetest guy in the world. But they talked him into putting the name in the other kid's name, and he lost his house. because of a lawsuit. Anyway, you need to call that attorney, make an appointment, and just say you need to get things clarified. You want to make sure you're on the same page.
So to get this, should be in her name. Nobody should be on the deed, right?
Except her.
Except her.
And then the house is in the name of the trust, and that's fine.
House is in the name of the trust.
The trust should be her name. It's her trust. See, a trust is an inanimate object, has all the rights and authorities of a person, but the trustee owns it. And that trust can do nothing except what the trustee says. Now, there will be a successor trustee, because if your mom's out to lunch, she can't make a decision. So the successor trustee could be your brother, and that's fine. But as long as his name's not on the house as part of the deed, you don't have a problem. But you need to find out from that attorney.
Okay, let me find out.
Call us back if you need. Call us back if you need me. Okay.
I will. You guys are so formidable. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, Phyllis.
340-1593.
Why does that feel familiar?
I know. I was looking at you.
I can't tell you how many times we come into this problem. It's just sad that it constantly happens. But then there's also, like we were saying, devious people that try to take advantage.
And it's hard to give good answers without seeing the documents in front of you.
And trust me, you never think that your sister is going to do what your sister might do in this situation.
The key thing was, if the same attorney that did Mom's trust did a modification to the trust, the odds are extremely good he did not take Mom's name off or add the son to it in order to lose her homestead or to have. I just can't imagine. Can you, Alan? I mean,
well, you don't know. You just don't know.
But the point is what we were talking about earlier. You've got to see the evidence. You've got to see the documents.
Correct.
You can't assume that the attorney that they used made a mistake. Maybe he didn't. Maybe she's not explaining the documents
if
right.
all they did was put the brother there to help in the event that she can't make a decision.
That's it.
And put his address because he's the one who they need to contact.
And that's okay.
That's not a big to-do.
No.
But if they changed everything else, that could be an issue.
That's a problem. 340-1590, 340-1590. How much time we have, Mother?
Oh, you got about a minute.
I'm so happy.
A whole minute.
I got a brand new product I was going to talk about.
You better not.
Do it in 30 seconds.
I don't have
Well, you
time.
could tease it for next week.
I will save it for next week.
Yeah, you got a brand new product.
I'm telling you, it's a
Next
wrinkle.
week, people.
It's a wrinkle that's a brand new.
You've
wrinkle.
got plenty of those.
Wrinkle.
Well, not as many as Alan.
True.
But only because you're chubby, you don't have any wrinkles.
They're just swell marks.
340-1590, 340-1590. Honest folks, anybody that's got a homestead, that homestead is a sacred instrument. You don't ever put somebody else on your house. How many times have we counseled people saying, you can put it you can make a will, you can make a trust, but you don't eliminate your homestead.
And you don't have to put your kids on it.
You don't have
There's
to.
a better way to do it.
There's a better way.
Yeah.
You do not change that. 340-1590, 340-1590. If you can't call in, which you can't, you can call in anytime, and they'll take your name and number or give you our numbers, and we'll get back to you. Are we through with us?
Bye.
Until next week.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Team Martek Hour. The Team Martek Hour is a paid program. The content was provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership were not responsible for its content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. Tune in again next Wednesday at 11:05 for the Team Martek Hour here on WPSL 1590.